What's going on there, shifters? So we've been talking about state. Obviously this week's module is state. So I want to go over a few things and help us clarify a few things, all right? If there's one thing, especially as a coach for 20 years, if there's one consistent tend to see over and over and over, and I've experienced it, I'm sure everyone out there can also relate to it, is the sense of not feeling motivated, not feeling excited, feeling drawn down, feeling all these kind of things, right? And so if you watch the module, obviously we discussed the fact of like in different states we're different people, right? Like if I'm happy-go-lucky, excited, all these kind of things, I'm going to be more inclined to probably do certain things, and I'm going to be probably more receptive to certain things than when I'm like in a humdrum, the world is against me, I'm angry, I'm pissed off, I'm frustrated, whatever that may be, life is happening to me type of state, right? And so we want to be able to, if we can understand these things and start to see patterns within ourselves and really look at the triangle that creates our state and be able to see and identify yet again patterns and the things in which we create internally, we can start to learn to direct our state, right? And I think oftentimes what happens with society and the things that we get taught and the things that get publicized and all the other things that get thrown out there is, you know, you're supposed to be hardcore, you got to go the hard route, you got to be doing all these things. And then when we feel those moments of perhaps not feeling excitement, or we feel lacks of motivation, or whatever you want to tie that to, or, you know, we lose willpower, whatever all the other things that get thrown in there, we start to think there's something wrong with us, right? And it's understanding there's nothing wrong with you. Right? Like you are not broken. You do not need to be fixed. You don't have all these things. We just sometimes have maybe we're looking at it maybe from a wrong viewpoint, or maybe from a different lens. And if we can shift that a little bit, then maybe we might open a new door and a new path, so you can start to see that you are actually able to create the things in which you want to create in your life. Right? Because oftentimes, I know I can relate, there's been moments of feeling disempowered, I don't have a choice, I don't have a decision, I just wish I could get myself up, right? Like I need somebody to motivate me right now. Well, the great thing is right now, you guys, the person looking you in the mirror is all the motivation that you need, right? But oftentimes, our state gets in the way of that. And we're going to go over a few things that might help you direct these things a little bit easier, okay? Now, we're talking about your state. Think of that as essentially the emotional energy that you're in right now, right? Like, okay, I'm at work, it's been a hard day, my boss is late in me, whatever, life sucks, right? Like, or same thing goes of like, you know what, I'm excited, I'm ready to tackle the world, I'm in these things, right? Like, I'm just looking at me, my posture is different. Right? Like I think I used the example in the module of essentially like if I was driving down the street and I was going to tell you a story about somebody I saw walking along the street that just looked massively angry and upset and depressed, and it just looked like they were having the worst day that they possibly could have. You probably could visualize what that person looked like based off of the story without me even just describing their physical stature, right? Like they were, you could probably picture their head was down, they were slouched, they were frustrated, they probably had a lot of tension in the system, right? Well, the reason why you can envision that is because we have to assume certain postures, we have to assume certain body positions, we have to look certain ways to create certain chemical responses in our body, okay? And so what we want to be able to do is understand that we can utilize these tools to create anything in your life that you want to create, okay? So the first thing we're going to focus on, you guys, is your physiology, okay? Yet again, what is our body language looking like? What postures are we utilizing? What is our breathing patterns, right? Like I can imagine for a lot of you guys, if you can bring yourself to a state of hyper anxiousness, what is your breathing pattern? It's probably short. It might be shallow, it might be a little hyperventilating, right? Like when you're in a calm, relaxed, right? Like in a yoga or in a down-regulated, calm state, right? Like I'm very thoughtful, deep breathing, long exhaling, all these type of things, all these type of emotion, or all these type of essential postures that are going through, right? Like there's 52 muscles in your face, right? Like each muscle is going to literally send a different signal and a different cue internally for your body to release and create certain chemical reactions, right? Like that, paraphrasing this study, but essentially there was a study conducted in a mental institution, in a psychiatric ward, of patients that were severely depressed. And they took these patients and basically had them take a pen and place it between their teeth. And then the goal there was to place it between their teeth and not touch the pen with their lips, and have it hold that, and have the patients hold that for extended periods of time. And they monitored their progress throughout the month. And so essentially by doing that, what am I doing? I'm smiling. I'm creating a smile, and I'm contracting muscles in my face that are essentially sending certain chemical reactions to my brain and to my body. And what they found over the course of the month is they went from these patients that were severely, massively depressed, and over the course of doing this and accumulating that time after time throughout the day, they found at the end of the month, most of them actually got out of a state of depression, right? Like it's understanding that in order to be depressed, we have to do depression. Depression just doesn't just all of a sudden hit. We have to, you have to basically work at being depressed to be depressed. You have to have certain body postures. You have to think and feel certain things. You have to create certain thought process and visualizations within your mind in order to do these things, right? And so it's on the sense of, if I can bring myself into that. Actually, a study that was conducted by Harvard researchers studied what's called the power pose. Some of you guys might know it as like the superwoman or superhuman or superwoman or superman pose, right? And so what it is essentially, if I place my hand on my hips, pull my shoulders back, and pull my chin up, and essentially smile, right? As ridiculous as that looks, Harvard researchers actually found that actually creates certain chemical responses in your body. By doing that for 120 seconds, so essentially standing there like this for 2 minutes, it automatically increases my testosterone by 20%. So essentially that's our dominance, like go take action and I feel empowered type of hormonal response, right? Like if you didn't watch the video on hormones, check it out. But essentially I increase that hormonal response by 20% after 120 seconds. In addition, my cortisol levels, so the opposing basic hormone that creates anxiety, it's my fight or flight, it down-regulates a lot of my metabolic function, it creates a lot of other, it has a catabolic effect on my system. It actually decreases that hormonal response by 25%. And the other thing of that is they found that it actually increases your likelihood of taking a chance on something that you might not necessarily be open to by 33%. So you feel more confident. You feel like you can be more of an action taker. You feel like you're able to take on these things, right? Like think of this in terms of like, well, I don't feel motivated. I don't feel like I can do those things. I don't think these, right? Like 120 seconds of just bringing your posture and your body language to a different stature, literally increases these things, and it's proven, all right? So that's our physiology, okay? What body postures are you in? What does your facial expressions look like? How are you breathing? How are you slouched? What is your head position? All of these things are going to affect your state. So when you're going through your day, you guys, take note of these things. What's going on? You know, I feel angry. Okay, what does your posture look like? I feel excited. I feel energized. Okay, what's your posture look like? And yet again, okay, that means for you, this means this. Awesome. I know next time when I feel disempowered, I can bring myself into these postures, and it's probably going to promote these things, okay? The next thing after that is our focus, all right? What are you focusing on, all right? And I want to bring awareness. What is your emotional home, all right? Or you can think of this as like, where does your thermostat set at? All right, we all have an emotional home and we all go there, right? Like, you know, we all say, well, I'm just a pessimistic at heart. No, you had to be taught and condition yourself to be a pessimist, right? So if I'm a pessimist and an event happens or something goes awry in my day and I go there, but my emotional home is negativity, I teach myself to go negative. I teach myself that I gotta look at the glass essentially as half empty. I gotta teach myself that I'm doing something wrong. I condition myself to do these things. But it also means that I can condition myself to do the opposite. All right? So when I'm going through these things, yet again, what's my physiology? The next thing, what am I focusing on? Am I focusing on things that are empowering, or am I focusing on things that are disempowering, right? Like, think about that. Perception equals reality. What you perceive becomes your reality, right? If I'm standing side by side with somebody and we look and we witness the same event, but one person sees it as like my life is ending and the world's working against me, where I see it as, you know what, this is a challenge and this is an opportunity for me to grow. Same event, we witness the same exact thing, but our perceptions are completely different. That means the actions that are going to come out of that and my state is also going to be different, right? So when you're going through this, what are we focusing on? What is your perception of it? What is the reality that's going to be caused from that? What is your emotional home, right? Like, yet again, these things are practiced. And usually when it's coming from things, what are you grateful for, right? Gratitude elicits these emotional responses. It's been shown and proven that you cannot be both upset and angry and be grateful at the same time. So, if you're finding yourself in a place of anger, frustration, maybe sadness, maybe loneliness, maybe depression, immediately, what are you grateful for? Not only listing it out as if it's a list of just going through, like, am I grateful for this? Why are you so grateful for it? What is that allowing you to experience? How is that contributing to your life? What specifically is that doing for you? If you haven't found out yet, you guys, this isn't just elementary. This is being able to give you the tools to create anything in your life that you want. All right? So, yet again, what's my physiology? What am I focusing on, right? Like, where's my mind going? What am I thinking about? What is it meaning to me? The last thing is language and meaning, all right? Language carries weight, all right? For one, you guys, the great part about this being an online program is when you guys post stuff, you can go back and read what you post and the language in which you are using to describe what's going on, all right? Language carries weight. What you say elicits certain emotional responses, right? Like when I say certain words, they carry more weight than when I say other words, right? So think about that. If I'm going to describe, it's like, God, I'm so freaking angry. You know what? I'm a little bit upset. I can describe the same exact outcome. I can be at the same exact result. But, I mean, do that for yourself. Oh, I'm so freaking mad I could just rip somebody's head off. You know what? I'm a little bit upset. Right? Like those two things, just throwing that in, okay? What that is that's called transformational vocabulary, okay? That's it for short, TV, all right? Oftentimes, just doing a little bit of a TV in your sentence can throw it off, all right? I'm not sure if I put this into the module or not, but essentially on this, you guys, is also finding, right? Like for me, expanding my vocabulary has been one of the better things as far as helping me emotionally and be able to direct my state better, right? Like literally, what found for me is when I was feeling frustrated, angry, pissed off, whatever, and I was feeling almost basically out of control and I was trying to express what was going on, I would use the word Twitter-pated, right? God, I'm so freaking Twitter-pated. It sounds so ridiculous that I couldn't help but laugh, right? And literally, it was almost like if you ever have a little kid that falls down, right? Like when they fall down, all of a sudden you like try to distract them. It's like, yay, everything's all good. But then you have the other person that's like, oh my God, are you okay? Right? And all of a sudden they feed into that and they start crying and it's the worst thing of all time. But if you distracted them and essentially what you're doing is changing their state and all of a sudden they're moving on to the next thing. Literally, that's all we're trying to do with ourselves, right? So if we can find certain cues, certain words to basically distract our brain and break the patterns that we're normally in, we change and move on to the next best thing instead of getting stuck and essentially emotionally constipated, like Courtney likes to refer to, and we get stuck on our own stuff and we get to move on from there, okay? So yet again, find different words. Find things that you find funny that might describe the things in which you tend to see or experience, but all of a sudden are so just outlandishly extreme that it just changes. Like, that sounds so ridiculous, right? Like, yet again, I can be angry, but if I start smiling, I start doing these things, even the words that I use, changes my physiology, it changes what I'm focusing on, and it changes the meaning in which I tie to those things. Because that's the other thing, you guys, is nothing has any meaning until you attach something to it. Nothing that has no meaning until you put words to it, right? Like, if I'm meeting somebody who's speaking a completely foreign language to me and they're describing something, I have no context of what they're actually describing, so it really doesn't hold any weight to me. But if all of a sudden I tie like, oh, that thing there is broken, it's bad, it's upset, it's whatever, oh, I have linkage there of, oh my God, that must be a bad thing. But if all of a sudden I don't have any connection between those two things, it doesn't hold any merit to me, and I don't have any weight tied to it, right? So that's the power of understanding state, is not only like, okay, yeah, my state is this, but understanding like, okay, I'm feeling this. How do I direct it towards the things I want to experience? You know what? I see Mary Sue. Mary Sue drives the hell out of me. How can I have a conversation with Mary Sue and be present and have this be the best conversation I've ever had? Okay, where's my physiology? Okay, I'm going to bring it here. Mary Sue, you know what? I'm in a good mood. I'm happy-go-lucky, where normally you drive me out the wall. Okay, my physiology is this. Okay, I'm focusing on, you know what? Mary Sue is usually a happy-go-lucky person. She talks to you up, but you know what? She's at least a person that wants to know what's going on in your life, right? Okay, what's the language? You know what? Mary Sue usually drives me crazy. You know what? Mary Sue smile, whatever it may be, you know what? The same outcome, way totally different experience, okay? So, this is the key to unlocking anything that you want to create in your life, okay? These are the keys, you guys. We can deep dive down the rabbit hole even further, but my challenge for you as we move through this, you guys, yet again, we're on the latter half of this week. So, when it comes to your state, see how these things correspond. Right? What do you typically stand at? How do you stand? How do you move? How do you breathe? What do you smile? Do you grimace? Are you always the person that has basically resting, unpleasant face? We'll call it that, right? What do you focus in on? What's your emotional home? Are you always the person that always has to look at things from just the crappy side of it? Or are you the person like, you know what, there's opportunity to be found here? Or in the last part of this, are you always the person that downplays everything that has to talk in a negative fashion? Are you the person that, you know what, it's a little bit this, throw in some softness, right? But I also recommend you guys see where else you do that in. Because do you throw a little bit of that and make it the most gigantuan thing, but when it's talking about you and making change in your life, because this is what we tend to see is like, you know what, I'm so freaking angry, I'm so tired of this, I'm ready to make a change right now. And then all of a sudden it becomes time to like, you know what, I'm really not that bad. You know, I'm a little bit bigger than I want. I'm a little bit slower. I'm those things. Like 2 seconds ago, you were talking about it was the worst experience of your life, and you had a different emotional relationship with that. But when we put softeners to ourselves, we are also more inclined to lay off the gas pedal towards the things and what we want to accomplish. So be aware of that as well. So hope this helps you guys. This is a little bit more of a deep dive into state. The camera's flipped around, so if you've had questions on this, you guys, leave your comments, leave your questions. If you got things that you're noticing for yourself, or all of a sudden you're taking note of, absolutely, you guys, yet again, come to a place of curiosity, awareness, and that way we can change these things throughout the day. So hope this helps. Hope you guys are having a great day. Let me know your thoughts. Hope it helps, and take care, y'all.